Initially only asked as the obligatory Valve 3 question, the first official mention of Left 4 Dead 3 comes from an interview conducted by Eurogamer back on January 10th, 2012 with Valve's Chet Falisak. The bulk of the interview covers the then-released Greenlight program and Counter-Strike Global Offensive. However, the interview then moves over to the Left 4 Dead series, citing the recent 12 million sales figure for both Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. Eurogamer, as anyone would, asked the question, quote, "Will you ever do another one?" Falisak responded, quote, "A 3? You know, sometime down the road. Like anything, I would say that to all of our games. So that's not a promise of when or where." Oddly enough, it is very likely that Left 4 Dead 3 started development either before or shortly after the interview, because on June 19th, 2013, the internet had its first peek behind the Bellevue curtain in years, with the leak of the Valve Jira mailing list. Jira is an email system that allows employees of a company to assign each other to different mailing lists for specific projects or work-related events. And in the case of Valve, projects such as Source 2, Half-Life 3, and Left 4 Dead 3 were found having multiple groups of employees, with Left 4 Dead 3 branching into 3 separate lists and containing more employees than most other projects in the entire list. The size of the mailing list gives the impression of Left 4 Dead being worked on for some time before the leaked date, with the division of communication between audio, development, and general shows a dev cycle length longer than most unknown projects. This was quickly followed by a second leak provided by members of the Dota 2 subreddit. Back on August 5th, 2013, the Dota 2 subreddit was given a tour of Valve HQ, and certain people were allowed to take pictures to share with the community. Aside from some whiteboard pics, the most important picture came from someone on the tour who was able to snap a picture of Valve's internal changelog, essentially a record of every change made in any in-development project, which would be recorded and reported around the company. And the picture shows a glimpse of Valve from 1:49 p.m. until 3:49 p.m. on August 5th, 2013. The picture shows the progress of 5 categories of projects: Steam, Web, Source 2, Dota 2, and an unknown 5th. Referenced multiple times within the Source 2 category is Left 4 Dead 3, confirming development of the game on Valve's new engine, with the entries stating, quote, "Change Left 4 Dead 3's test networking unit test to use the dev test level again," and, quote, "Restored Left 4 Dead 3's dev test unit test, ran locally 6 times without an assert," both submitted by Valve dev Ted Carson. This leak was also quickly followed up by the last upload on Valve's now-defunct Pipeline YouTube channel, what was proposed as the place where employees could communicate with other game developers, which was likely replaced by Dev Days. The last video was interesting. Titled Andrea Wickland's Lobster Hunter, the video is time-lapsed footage of the now 10-year Valve artist's Lobster Hunter artwork being made. Exactly what the Lobster Hunter is for is still not known. However, seeing as Wickland worked on both Left 4 Dead's, this may point towards a subject. However, what really matters for the purpose of this video is the split-second reveal of Wickland's saved folder where she names the art Lobster Thumbnail within her concepts folder, which also contains images such as Left 4 Dead 3 Bridge, Left 4 Dead 3 Concept 3 through 9, and Left 4 Dead 3 Rural. Her recent places was also shown, showing another folder just named Left 4 Dead 3. And for a second time, on August 1st, 2013, Valve's Jira was accidentally left open to the public, mostly stating the same in regards to the groups, but the groups itself for things like Left 4 Dead 3, Half-Life 3, and Source 2 had grown in size. It is also at this time that a full list of employees working on these projects was released, showing just how many people were working on Left 4 Dead 3. Only one more leak would occur for some time, being the release of a screenshot of an official Source 2 presentation, showing the difference in ability between Source 1 and 2. The images are of the plantation from Swamp Fever in Left 4 Dead 2, and it switches between the 2 variations in quality, being Source 1 and Source 2. This leak, however, has been misinterpreted by the community for a few years, as many believed this had something to do with Left 4 Dead 3 or a remake of Left 4 Dead 2 in the Source 2 engine. Speculation, I believe that this was only a tech demo and really only showed the difference in level design. This is due to the lack of any real evidence of a Left 4 Dead 2 remake up until this point, and the fact that the images were only of the level and not of any gameplay mechanics seen within any Left 4 Dead games. It is also around this time, and inferred to be part of the same leak, that Facepunch user Testing Lol posted an image of Valve's internal internal Source 2 branch, showing Left 4 Dead 3 and Left 4 Dead 2 imported folders. Now, please keep in mind that similar things were found within the later released Portal 2 and the VR test bench. Imported doesn't mean that a game is being ported for its gameplay purposes, but more likely means that the assets of the Source 1 game were being ported over into Source 2 to be used either as assets in the game or placeholder assets, and all legitimate leaks went silent for over a year and a half, and according to some, was silent for much longer. But some text files had leaked back on October 10th, 2015. 3 files called Half-Life 3 TXT, RPG.txt, and Lights.txt. These leaks are different from most because they were intentional. Every leak from before has a traceable source either publicly or known somewhere within the community. However, these files were silently added with a Dota 2 update that don't have anything to do with Dota 2. Instead, these look like specifically manufactured files to get community feedback on different gameplay concepts, such as the quests, the VR settings and maps, the day-night cycle, and RPG elements. Something important about these files that I recently thought of, I had this epiphany of, is the reasoning for their leaks, being that the leaks occurred to get feedback on canceled projects to see if any of the concepts should be reused in a future variation of the project or another game entirely. I call this post-leaking, and I'm going to be getting more into my theories on this in a future video. But as for Left 4 Dead 3, it is somewhat possible that the game had halted development at some point, or maybe some features were pulled out and then told to the community for feedback. I do not believe that Left 4 Dead 3 at any point restarted development, but instead had a possibility of having certain gameplay mechanics being shown within these files for feedback purposes. On February 22nd, the largest leak occurs following the release of the Steam VR Test Bench, a program used to test if a person's computer was capable of running VR. Community members then quickly realized that the version repo for this software, essentially the private version history archive, was open to the public using a command line downloader. The files within the earliest build, only intended for VR developers and dated July of 2015, contained many VR test maps and a few files from Left 4 Dead 3 and Half-Life 3. For the purposes of our video, the most important files are a texture set and a map. The textures, referred to as Retired Engineer, are found within a directory referencing Left 4 Dead 3 and can be assumed to be part of some kind of character that would be found in Left 4 Dead 3. The map, titled VR Left 4 Dead Characters, is a broken mess that is supposed to take place within somewhat of a barn, where the player would see the Retired Engineer, possibility of a few other unknown characters, along with Bill, Zoe, Lewis, and Francis. Now here is some speculation. Left 4 Dead 3 will probably include some sort of VR component, maybe a side game exclusively in VR, or maybe the ability for VR and non-VR players to play together. On June 6th, 2016, Valve released the VR photogrammatic program Destinations, and although the software was well made, and now it does seem like Valve is trying to turn this into a small MMO, back on release, the only thing many were interested in were the leaks, one being references to a Source 2 game called Left 4 Dead 2 Imported, with the lines also referencing the importing of content, which points towards the idea I had before of this only being used for assets, not a whole game. And lastly, only a few days after the release of Destinations, Valve started publishing guides on how to create your own scenes and mods for Destinations. In one, authored by Tristan Reedford, a picture was accidentally posted showing Reedford's frequently visited places on his PC, one of them being a folder titled Left 4 Dead 3. I say accidentally because this was quickly removed and not officially commented on. Most intentional Valve leaks include some sort of code detailing possible features tying into the idea of post-leaks, but this was similar to the Andrea Wickland video and seems completely unintentional. Reedford was listed all the way back in 2013 as being on the project, so he most likely forgot that it wasn't something that needed to be hid due to the amount of time he has spent with the project, and this brings me to my main point. Speculation. Left 4 Dead 3 has consistently had a sizable team for at least 3.5 years, a dev period of most finished games. The time in development is probably longer, mostly due to how large the team was during the first leak back in mid-2013. So I believe that the game is either nearing completion or feature complete and in the final stages stages of polish and playtesting. We keep seeing employees from the Left 4 Dead 3 Jira list playing an insane amount of Left 4 Dead 2. However, if you pay attention to their public Left 4 Dead 2 stats on the game, they're very low, and it seems as though they rarely play that game. So I would not be surprised if Valve would just release this game one day out of nowhere, possibly in early access to make sure that any changes to the formula are fun and accepted. The game seems to be running in Source 2, at least according to the leaks, and that would definitely allow Valve to post-leak some information on any other Source 2 projects. The fact that Left 4 Dead 3 hasn't had many of those post-leaks, if any at all, leads me to believe that the game never restarted. So if everything lines up, we may be looking at a playable Valve game ready to be released when Valve feels it necessary. If you want to support these videos, check out my Patreon page, link down in the description below, and thank you very much for watching. I'm Tyler McVicker, this is Valve News Network. Have a good day. Adios.